make sure they're going to pull you out. They're going to make sure there are no other humans in there tampering with evidence, that nothing is unsafe, that body is really dead. And then they're going to back off. They're going to shut the doors and they're going to wait for that warrant. But they are going to be able to go inside initially. And that's not a search.
No. We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about a handful of myths regarding cops. We've talked about this kind of stuff in the past. We'll link those videos in the description below. But there's 3 that just won't seem to die. And it's worth talking about because these things present themselves in client meetings and things like that regularly. We're going to be talking about they didn't read me my rights. We're going to talk about getting profiled. And we're going to be talking about searching without a warrant and how this affects you as a gun owner. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button. And today's video is brought to you by our friends over at Aura.
It'd be funny if it weren't true, but our law partner Edwin is absolutely inundated with spam calls and texts. I don't know who he ticked off, but he has to be on every telemarketer list known to man, and you can see the hopeless frustration and bewilderment every time the phone rings.
Unfortunately, one of the main reasons we all receive so many spam calls and texts is that data breaches are happening more and more frequently.
Recently, Ticketmaster was hacked and the data of 560 million users was put up for sale on the dark web. The stolen data includes full names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and even credit card data.
Even though they may not do anything to fix it, you can be proactive with Aura, the sponsor of today's video. That's where Aura comes in. Aura has almost every internet safety tool you'll ever need, all inside one app. The app features a VPN, password manager, real-time credit and identity theft monitoring, internet parental controls, and protection for devices from malware.
These tools are crucial if you want to protect your bank account and social media accounts or other sensitive information. And on top of data breach notifications, Aura proactively identifies data brokers exposing your information on the web.
They'll even submit opt-out requests for you for junk mail and telemarketing lists.
Aura's always on, provides incredible peace of mind, and does all the hard work of keeping you safe online.
Better yet, if you sign up right now, Aura will give you a 14-day free trial with our link. So if you value your privacy as much as we do, go to aura.com/armedattorneys to start your free trial, which is also linked in the description below.
So what brought this up today is that, basically I just took a client meeting last week, nicest people in the entire world. And when very nice people who don't have a lot of experience in the criminal justice system get charged with, let's say, murder for having to defend themselves, all of these things come up because if you are a very nice person and if you're not like consuming content like this pretty frequently where you're kind of learning the rules, you believe that Law and Order, CSI, everything you see on the movies is reality. And so then there's a lot of education that has to happen about, oh boy, buckle up, because every way you think your rights were violated over the course of that police interaction where you ended up getting charged with murder for defending yourself, probably not. Ultimately, not only are police allowed to do the things that we're going to talk about, but they are allowed to, they're allowed to just shoot from the hip, basically.
Are you telling me that the government is going to evaluate whether government behaved poorly and clear them of all wrongdoing?
No, that's not what I should be telling you, but I guess, yes, that is what I'm telling you. That is not the way we want it to be. So, we have this, very lovely couple. It's a very early case. It's even pre-indictment by the grand jury. So I'm really not going to give any facts here. I don't even want to hint at who this might be. But, unfortunate self-defense murder charge. And the police were really, really horrible to them. It was, a police department that has a reputation for crappy police work. They really just, they went in thinking that my guy was the bad guy, hating him, hating his wife who was there and witnessed the incident, and just abused the hell out of him the entire time. And that's so frustrating for people. And yet, what's the remedy for the police acting like jerks?
Usually it's in a courtroom and it's evidentiary. In very rare circumstances is it, hey, I get to sue the cops.
Right. For the most part, it's you really hope the jury ends up hating the cops.
Yeah, and I'll say that actually works. The jury is an okay check on bad cop behavior, especially when you have those jury trials where your theme of your case is, hey, the police department's on trial, those usually go pretty well.
Yes, that love that. But so anyway, so I mean, I think let's start it out here with our number one, not just these clients, but our number one. Hey, I got you. Don't worry. I'm gonna win us our case because guess what, Richard?
They didn't read me my rights.
They didn't read me my rights. So, when do you get your Miranda rights read? It is when you are in custodial interrogation. What does that not mean, Richard?
So, police arrive on scene, start questioning you. Guess what? All right, maybe you're being interrogated, but you're not in
Not
custody
in
yet.
custody.
All right.
That's just their investigation. That's not custodial interrogation.
Right. And let's say you're sitting in the back of the police car in cuffs, but they're not asking you questions and you're just rambling on about the incident. That's also not a custodial interrogation because while you may be in custody, you're not being interrogated. And so you can kind of see how the courts are going to give the police a lot of leeway. Now, what is the practical effect of the police not reading you your Miranda warnings? Well, first off, they're not never required to do it.
No, and what's going to happen is they're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions in the investigation phase. They're going to get all your words out, and then they're going to arrest you, and they're never going to read you your rights. And so when you're like, they never read me my rights, well, there is no effect. There is no effect. They didn't have to.
And what happens if they do custodially interrogate you? So let's say you are in cuffs, you are at the police station, they are interrogating you, and they haven't read you your Miranda warnings. Those are you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to have an attorney, all of those rights. The legal remedy is, well, the information that they gather from you, not admissible in court. If that evidence is used to maybe lead them to another piece of evidence, well, we call that fruit of the poisonous tree. Maybe that evidence is not admissible in court. But police have kind of gotten wise to this, and for the most part, they know how to walk around Miranda because they don't, they want their evidence to be admissible, but they don't want to alert people that, hey, look, you are in legal jeopardy. When people start saying, hey, you think you should get a lawyer? Well, guess what? Shields go up. Most people want to shut down, and that's the right instinct. You should not be communicating to the police without an attorney, and you should only be communicating through an attorney.
Yeah. I mean, sidebar though. When you're in that investigation stage, before you are being custodially interrogated, before you've been arrested, are you entitled to an attorney? No, you are not. And that is another, I mean, that's not even on our list here, but that is another huge misconception because, I mean, in fact, one thing I was talking to my clients about last week was they were like, they separated us from our cell phones. We couldn't even call you, but we were entitled to an attorney. It's like, ooh, I wish you could have called me, but you were not entitled to an attorney in that moment because your right to an attorney only comes up under the Fifth Amendment when you are being interrogated or under the Sixth Amendment once you have already been arrested and charged.
And so the way to navigate that, say you don't have a right to an attorney, but there is a way to navigate it. And the way that you do that is, hey, I want to help as much as I can, but I'm going to talk to you through an attorney. So you're not necessarily invoking your right to an attorney, but you're letting them know, hey, I'm not going to keep talking to you without a lawyer.
No, I mean, there is nothing you can do or say, and nothing I can do or say that is going to make them let you talk to an attorney on scene. That's going to get an attorney magically to appear on scene and help you out. That is unfortunately not the way the Fifth and Sixth Amendment work.
All right, I think that brings us to myth number 2. They didn't get a warrant.
Yes, this is also something that came up last week. So,
in the same meeting?
In the same meeting.
Dang it. Okay.
I told you it was everything. I wasn't lying when I said it was literally everything you could
Okay.
ever imagine. Because again, that's what happens to good people. You don't know. You don't have this experience with the justice system. That's good. I'm glad you don't. If you like the guys who know everything, who are basically jailhouse lawyers themselves, they don't make great self-defense clients. I'm gonna be honest with you. So yes, what we have is this, right, truism, generally speaking, that the police should not enter your habitation without a warrant.
Yeah.
Generally true. However, there are lots of exceptions to this. They're not going to be able to search without a warrant. They're not going to be able to just traipse around and look for evidence. But what happens in the wake of a fatal shooting in that location, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, they have some exceptions to the general warrant requirement. So the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution says, hey, guess what? Police can't search persons, places, without first going to a neutral magistrate, giving probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation of the things to be searched or the places to be searched and the people to be seized. So we have our Fourth Amendment, But we have so many exceptions to the general warrant requirement that it really has made the Fourth Amendment very ineffective.
Right. And so, what may happen to you is the police are going to go inside. They're going to see that dead body. They are going to make sure that everything is safe in there. They're going to make sure they're going to pull you out. They're going to make sure there are no other humans in there tampering with evidence, that nothing is unsafe, that body is really dead, and then they're going to back off. They're going to shut the doors and they're going to wait for that warrant. But they are going to be able to go inside initially, and that's not a search.
No, not at that point, and especially, you know, dead body, exigent circumstances, people there. The theory that the courts will back the cops up on this is, hey, we don't want you tampering with the scene, and so that's where the courts have kind of intervened on this and put incredible limitations on the Fourth Amendment, which is unfortunate. I mean, I think you should be free from search and seizure unless you got a warrant against you. I mean, unless they go through all these due process hoops, it seems like a pretty good safeguard, but has been greatly eroded. How do you protect yourself under these circumstances? Well, the biggest exception to the warrant requirement is consent. And so a lot of times, if you call the police, well, you summon for help, police show up, it's very strange for you to say, oh no, don't come in, or I don't consent to any searches or seizures. And so I think the police kind of rely on that a lot of times when interacting with folks. But understand, if you say, sure, come on in, or the police say, hey, can we come on in, and you open the door, you're giving your consent by your actions. Any complaint that you have that the police unlawfully search something probably goes out the window with consent.
Right. And remember, they can lie to you. So don't let them manipulate you to get in with consent. In fact, not only with these clients last week, but it has happened to me with a different client on a different murder case where the police were like, well, you know what? If you had just cooperated on scene, if you had let us in, if you'd given us your statement, we wouldn't have arrested you. It's like, that's not true. And why screw with someone that way by telling they're already under arrest? Why screw with them that way by telling them that?
Yeah.
I mean, especially in Harris County, it's not even up to the police. I mean,
But
it's not. It's up to the DAs, right? So it's like, come on. Like, that's not just lying for the investigation's sake. That's just lying to be an a-hole.
I agree.
Agree harder.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, the way you preserve your right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure, not consenting. If the police outright say, hey, we're gonna search this, if you say no, the way you do it is say, I'm not going to interfere with you, but I do not consent to any searches or seizures. And again, looking back like we did at Miranda, what is the remedy here? Well, the police unlawfully search something, unlawfully seize something, or that leads them down a rabbit trail to get some more evidence. All that stuff theoretically should be thrown out in court if it was unlawfully searched or seized.
All right. I think our last one is myth number 3, right? Well, they profiled me, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Everything's got to get thrown out because they profiled me.
Yeah, this comes up in a couple of different. This is just my experience. Have the context that it comes up in somebody carrying in public, or a lot of our motorcycle clubs here in Texas. They get pulled over because they're wearing their cuts, and they look scary to the police.
Yeah. Or, I mean, even to a lesser extent, you have to call them out for a self-defense incident, and they're like, ooh, you're the bad guy for this reason, for a reason they feel like it's profiling, right?
Yeah. And so what happens there? Well, the police, again, they've gotten very good at this. The courts have given them a ton of leeway. What they will typically do is, maybe they won't. I mean, I've never seen a cop outright say, actually, I have. I've seen a few videos where it's like, have you seen it when they run license plates and they're like, you don't belong in this part of town?
Oh, that happened actually with my local jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Of when we
That cop got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that cop did get in a lot of trouble. And I was kind of like,
It's your neighborhood.
it's my neighborhood. Like, oops, my defense attorney's sensibilities, I guess, changed when it was my neighborhood.
But, it's pretty rare that you see a cop outright say, I profiled you. What they will typically do is develop independent, reasonable suspicion.
Which is so easy, especially if you're driving. Oh my God.
There's so many different traffic offenses you can commit.
Like, you could even be, I am not a good driver. Richard, good driver. And he drives like an old woman most of the time. Even Richard is committing traffic offenses. Everybody's committing traffic offenses all the time.
Well, I mean, old women are wont to commit traffic offenses.
Anyway, so yes, I mean, there is virtually always a non discriminatory, non-biased, there is almost always a good reason they can allege in order to detain you. Reasonable suspicion is such an incredibly low bar, whether it be you're walking around, whether it be you're driving, and frankly, they show up to a scene and they're treating you like the bad guy and you think it's for a reason they shouldn't be. Boy, I mean, there's just nothing to stop them from doing that except tell it to the jury, you
Yeah,
know?
and what the courts are relying on is something called independent source doctrine. So even if the police do something wrong, if they have an independent reason to do it, let's say failing to signal or not stopping at the line of the traffic, at the stop sign, you know, they will say, guess what? The cops screwed up here. They absolutely profiled you, but they had an independent reason that cures whatever wrong they committed in the profiling. And the context that this comes up in with just people caring, because that's a question I've gotten a lot lately is, hey, can the cops just disarm me, walk up to me, take my guns off me because I'm carrying in public? The general rule is no. Police, a lot of times these things will start as consensual encounters, police talking to you, you're free to walk away. But a lot of times, if they are disarming you, they are typically going to be able to articulate some reasonable suspicion of some offense. Absent that, then it's an unlawful search, unlawful seizure. They've unlawfully disarmed you. Remedies again in court.
Right. And actually, the remedy for that is quite good. I mean, when we talk about Miranda, the remedy is you throw out those statements. Doesn't mean your arrest goes away. Your arrest probably doesn't go away.
Right.
But whatever statements you made, those are gone. We talk about unlawful searches. Well, whatever evidence they seized, go away. That's great if you had drugs on you, if you're a self-defender and you're admitting to everything anyway, and it's like, oh, there was blood on like I don't know, dish rag and they seized that and that goes in the garbage now. Like, okay, who cares? You're like, yeah, there's blood everywhere. I shot the guy. So that's not super great. But when we're talking about they violated the tenets of reasonable suspicion.
Well, we're right at the base of the tree when it comes to the poisonous tree.
Yeah. So when you're suppressing a stop, that's great. I mean, that remedy is fantastic because what happens when a stop is suppressed?
Everything
The
else
case
gets
goes away.
Yeah, because everything flows from the stop.
Right, exactly right. So that's the only place where like the remedy is really good. But of course, it could be a gun case that stems from a stop. It's never going to be a self-defense case that stems from a stop. So.
Right. But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And please question and comment for us below. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.